Hi friends, it's Becky, and today I want to make a project using some beads and findings from the Jesse James Beads Magical Mystery Bead Box for September. This is the Wizard of Oz box. It was themed on the Wizard of Oz movie with all of the visuals and everything, which is based on Frank L. Baum's novel, The Wizard of Oz. So I've got all of these components. I grabbed this big old square bead, the tassel that came in that box. I love this tassel. Like every single green bead, and this gorgeous, gorgeous Emerald City chain. I've also grabbed some of the spacers, these fluted spacers, these dotted spacers, and we're going to be using those. And then I've got lobster clasp and some of these to do this. So we're going to be using this, but I also really wanted to use this chain that came in the Stay Golden Magical Mystery Bead box. That was the August box. So we're going to have a twofer. I am going to make one necklace using the Wizard of Oz box and one necklace using Stay Golden, and we'll just do it all together. I love this chain and I absolutely wanted to get a chance to use it. So I've cut enough chain for a choker. I actually didn't cut it though. I opened up the jump ring that connects each of these links and closed it up again. So I'm going to have a choker, and then I'm just going to attach some dangles to it. And the dangles, I'm going to be using these coin beads. I've got two of the small ones and one of the large ones. And then I've got these smooth spacers and some crystals for each of these drops. And I went ahead and made most of the drops already. So I'll make a couple of them with you, and then we'll assemble this all together. And I also wanted to use some of these cool flower head pins and these briolets to make an earring. So I'll show you how to make this as well. So that's what we're going to do today. For my tools, I'm using some flush cutters for cutting wire. I am using round nose pliers for making loops. And I'm using some chain nose pliers for opening jump rings, closing jump rings, and also bending my wire. When I'm making this, I'm going to be stringing it on some of this green soft flex wire. This is a discontinued color, so it's not available right now, but I just love it, and I think it's going to be perfect to go with my green necklace. I'm going to be using some 2x2 crimp tubes and my magical crimper because it's my favorite way of crimping, but you could use any style of crimping if you wanted to do that. So let's move these aside and let's start with our Stay Golden necklace. Like I said, I had already cut this, or not cut, measured it out and got the right size for it to fit as a choker length around my neck. And then I've made all of these drops, and we will be attaching them to one side of this chain so that they dangle. And I'm just going to make two of my dangles or drops with you. I've got one that's a square bead. They're these two-tone square beads. And again, I'm using basically the rest of the same beads as I did with these coin beads. But I'm just going to put a head pin on that coin bead, the spacer, and then my crystal. And then I'm going to use my chain nose pliers. And sometimes I'll often just bend wire over the top of a bead, but not when it's a crystal bead like this, because it puts too much strain on the bead itself, and it makes it so that it will crack or possibly break. So like maybe a couple millimeters above the top of that, so you can see some space between the top of the bead and this, that's where I'm going to kind of grip this and do a little bend. And just do it carefully and make sure you're not putting any strain on that crystal, because crystals will break if you strain them. And then I want to cut off all but 1 centimeter of this wire. You can measure it, or since I already know on my finger, if I hold it, pinch it right there, where it meets the bottom of my fingernail is 1 centimeter in length, or 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to hold on to my wire when I cut it so it doesn't go flying, and then use my round nose pliers to roll that back up, and it's going to make a simple loop. And that simple loop is going to make it super easy for me to attach it to my chain. There we go. So that's one. Let's do the next one. It'll go a little bit quicker because I'm not going to be talking you through it, but you can at least see the motions as I make it. Go. Like I said, I already made the previous ones ahead of time. That saves some time. All right, so now what I need to do is I've got 3, and then one of these, and then 3, and then this will be the center, and 3, and one of these, and then 3 more, like that. So I want to find the center of this chain, and I'm going to do that by holding both ends, and it looks like this is the one right here. So I'm going to be attaching my center bead right there to that one. I'm going to leave that bent like that so I don't forget which one it is. And got myself a simple loop. So I'm going to swing it. I might have to swing it a little wide since this is a fairly thick wire that I'm going to be putting it on. Swing it open like that. Put it on that loop, and then swing it closed. I'm going to be using the chain nose pliers for all of that. All right. So that's my center. And now I'm just going to work along this line and along here and just attach one of these dangles in this order to each of these. I absolutely loved the Stay Golden Magical Mystery Bead box. Even though it wasn't necessarily colors that were like my favorite, they all just really look fantastic together. And you know, for some reason, I'm feeling a lot of affinity for those color combinations. I think they might be coming around to be back in style, because I've been seeing a lot of like home decor videos and people showing off what they just did to renovate their homes, and several of them have had that kind of color scheme. Maybe not like the big bold mid-century brightness of it, but like wallpaper with the olive greens or even the like avocado green colors and orange and some golden with like flowers and things like that in them. And it looked really pleasant, really nice on a lot of those videos that I saw. So it was a very timely sort of thing to be able to see when you did that. But then we got the Wizard of Oz box, and I absolutely love that. I loved the Wizard of Oz when I was a kid. I loved Return to Oz. Me and my sister used to watch that all the time. And I know that there's a lot of generational or like trauma from my generation, from kids my age who, or even a little bit younger, maybe a little older, who watched it, like the Wheelers, um, and the Hall of Heads and stuff like that from Return to Oz. But it was a fantastic film. I loved that too. And then a little bit later in life, I read Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West. It is a novel written by Gregory Maguire, which he did a lot of like alternate storytelling sort of things, like the Confessions of a Wicked Stepsister, which is an alternate storytelling of Cinderella. And so he did that one. And there's actually, I think, 4 different books. There might be 5 by this time. It's been a little while since I checked it. But there was The Wicked, there was Son of a Witch, which tells the story of her son. There was A Lion Among Men, which told the story of the Cowardly Lion. There was another one, I can't remember the name of it, but they're really good books, really good stories, and I love a good story. I love just any sort of imaginative tale, and different alternate tellings of tales. It's one of my favorite things to think of. So anyway, because I had read that before there was even a musical, when the musical came along, I was like, I have to go see it. And I have to admit right now, I have not ever seen it. I just had never had the time or the opportunity to do it. I lived in London when it was playing there, like the whole time I lived there. And one of my favorite things was standing outside Victoria Station, seeing the billboard for it. When a wind would blow, it would just catch these like glittery like scales that they had put on the billboard, like sequins or something, and it would just glitter. And it was so fantastic. It's just as it was blowing in the wind. And I'm determined that someday I will actually see it on stage, someday maybe, but at the very least I'll be able to maybe see it in the theaters when it is out there. But I really enjoy it. So I was so pleased for that. So we're going to be making a Emerald City necklace in a minute as soon as I finish my Stay Golden choker. And one of the reasons I wanted to make this a choker length is that I had already made a really long necklace with the Stay Golden box, and I decided when I was making the long necklace that I would layer it with a shorter necklace. So I think choker length and long necklaces go together so well. So well. I love that. That is going to be so much fun. So much fun to wear. Hold on, I'm just going to put it on my neck real quick. I will try it on my weekly wrap up so you can see what it looks like and what it looks like paired with the longer one as well. But there we go. That was pretty simple, wasn't it? All right, and now I'm going to, actually, I don't think I need, yeah, I'm going to use the jump ring here to attach the lobster clasp to this end. But we have a nice big ring here to connect it to on that end. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that. It's possible that I might need to attach an extender chain on that end, but I don't think so. I think it'll fit just perfectly. All right, so there we go. That was pretty easy. A lot of times, like the Jesse James Beads components, they do the work for you, especially the chains. They have such fantastic chains. This chain is no different. Love that. All right, I will get to the earrings after we do this one. All right, so let's make our little focal part. We'll put that together here. And I don't think I wanted to use wire for the focal. I'm going to just string everything on my beading wire. And then we're going to connect it to the chain. How much chain am I going to want to use? Okay. How about this much? Let me see. Is this link a split link, or am I going to need to cut it? It's split. I can just open it, can't I? Or maybe that's just where it's soldered. Nope, that's where it was soldered. And I just kind of pulled it apart. That's fine. This could be part of a bracelet maybe later. Right, and I wanted to have this on that end and this on that end. And now I'm just going to remove this bar at the back as well. Actually, let's just cut that since I'm going to need to cut it anyway. All right. So that's both lengths of my chain. It is absolutely beautiful. And now let's get this planned out a little bit better. All right, gonna have that there this year. And then, how are we doing? We'll do the square in between. We'll do these two right here. And this rondelle will be up here. This will be right there. That will be up at the top. And then this one will go in between there and there, and this one will be maybe down at the bottom. Okay, I think I know how I want this to go. Let's get enough wire to have plenty to do. This is such a great color for the wire. It's this gorgeous spring green. They should bring this back, honestly. All right. Now I'm going to put the tassel right there at the bottom of the wire. And then we're going to put both ends of this wire through this spacer, the square bead, and this like trumpety fluted metal bead. Scooch it down there. All right. Now we're going to divide it on two sides. I'm going to put on this smaller spacer and one of these large bicones. The small spacer, the large bicone, this dotted rondelle, the square bead, this smaller spacer again, this rondelle, and the fluted round column bead. Here we go. Just like that. Just like that. And now I'm going to be attaching these to the ends of our chain using a crimp bead. So crimp goes on first. And through the chain. We're just going to go ahead and go through that existing loop in the chain. Back through the crimp bead. I'm just going to feed it back through a couple. There we go. One of the reasons I chose this green wire was because whatever wire color I chose would show through this clear bead here. All right, before I crimp that, I'm going to do the other side as well so that I can make sure that I've got similar size loops on either end. You know, this green would have been great with the Stay Golden as well. All right. So now that I've got both of those loops, let's do some crimping. All right. So what I'm going to want to do is get the crimp bead centered into this concavity on the magical crimper. Once it's centered, if I need to wiggle it to move it away from this other bead a little bit, I can. Because once it's centered and I can give it a little smush, it smushes down just the corners of the crimp. And then if I turn it at a 90-degree angle, and then a 45-degree, and maybe a 32-degree, and maybe a 70-degree, I'm just going to keep going around. And as I do that, it smooths out all of those corners. I have a nice round ball of crimp. Now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Make sure I'm centered, and then get that on there. Okay. Now that those are crimped, I can snip off my excess wire. And I can attach closures to my chain. So I've got another lobster clasp and some jump rings. So I'm just going to twist that jump ring open like that. Attach that guy on my lobster clasp. and then twist it closed. Make sure it's actually good and closed. Right? And then I'm just going to attach this jump ring to this. I don't need to attach it to anything else. But like I said, it's almost like all of these components, they just do the work for you. Absolutely gorgeous. Love, 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 love this. Beautiful. And again, I will try this on Sunday when I do my weekly wrap up and chat. So we have both of these finished. Let me move these out of the way and let's do my earring real quick. So for this earring, and it's pretty simple to make, but I am going to use some 26 gauge wire while I'm doing that. So I'm going to pull off about 15 inches of wire. Again, it's 26 gauge wire. I end up wanting to find the middle of that. Okay. And then this flower head pin is going to be the main focal, and it's also going to be my ear wire. That's what I did with this. This was my head pin, the end of my head pin. I turned it into an ear wire when I made this guy. So I'm going to hold this guy here, and then this frondy bead cap is going to go over that, like that. And then this curved bead cap is going to go on top of that to give us more petals. Then I'm going to use my chain nose pliers, and I'm going to bend this up. I'm going to leave just a little bit of space between the bead cap and the bend, like that. And then I'm going to set this aside and grab my 26 gauge wire and the briolet. Put this through the hole on the briolet, let that drop all the way down to that bottom, right there in the middle. And I'm going to pull that up here. And right up here, next to the actual briolet, I'm going to grasp it with my round nose pliers and then go just around, not all the way around, but about halfway around those round nose pliers, just to kind of train the wire to be curved. Then I'm going to take this. You see how this is all loose and it's not staying put? Put this right there in that curved, or in that bend, between the bend and the bead cap, right there. And this is going to be the fiddly part, because I'm going to hold on to the briolet and this, and I'm going to start wrapping around that part of the earring between that bead cap and that bend. I'm going to go on both sides where that briolet is. I'm just going to keep wrapping until I get a nice bit of wire there. It's going to hold that and be a little bit tighter up against there, like that. Now, this part's a little bit tricky too. I'm going to come down and start wrapping around the briolet. So going in front of and around. It's very, hold the briolet and then start working your way down. Down around the top. And when you get around to the back, have some extra bits. And you can tuck them carefully. Carefully. All right, and now see this is kind of wonky. I'm going to pinch the briolet and this and move this forward like that. See how that's also forward? And then I need to make a loop that will go through the ear. And I just realized that there was a tool that I forgot to tell you about because I forgot that I used it. It's my 6-step bail making pliers. I'm going to be using this barrel here. It is larger than this barrel. If you have like some pens might be a good size for that, like skitty pens or something like that. If you've got one of those, you can form it around. But that's the one that I'm going to be using. So I've got that up there. I'm bending this back and then this around, just around that bend. And then I'm going to need another little bend right here. And then I'm going to cut off some of this excess wire. And then where this has been cut, I want to smooth that out. So I'm just going to grab one of my metal files. You can get a burr grinder as well. It'll do the same thing. It'll just smooth out any rough edges on that cut edge. Make it so when you put that into your ears, it won't tear up the inside of your ears by scratching it. There we go. So now I have a pair of earrings. My pretty orange flowers and a little dangly briolet. All right. So this was fun to make. These guys. And that was with the August box. And then this was with the new September box. And there's so many more beads in that box and chains and other findings that we can play around with. So we'll be able to have some more fun with that this month. I hope you enjoyed this. If you'd like, I will put a link to my unboxings for both of these. I'll also put a link to Jesse James Beads if you wanted to check out the Magical Mystery Bead Box and subscribe. I enjoy getting it. I am a happy subscriber, and it is one of my favorite boxes. One of my best things that they do is they like I said, I love stories, and they tell a story with the beads. They tell a story and give you an experience with it, and it's they do a really, really good job of that. Anyway, I will put all of that in there. I hope you're having a great day. If you like what you see, hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit subscribe, and I will talk with you later. Happy beading.